"Can you pretend to be my wife for 1 week?" He begged the stranger to save his daughter's birthday. The rain fell in relentless sheets that Saturday evening, drumming against the windows of a tiny apartment in downtown Chicago. Inside, a man sat hunched over the kitchen table, his hands trembling as he clutched a crumpled invitation. The envelope, elegant and pink, was addressed to a little girl named Emily, his daughter, inviting her to her very first friend's birthday party, a celebration he had promised her months ago. But the reality was crushing. His wife had left without warning 6 months earlier, and he was completely unprepared to face the social world of children, cakes, and smiling parents alone. He was desperate, running out of time, and for the first time in months, tears slipped down his face. Life had never been easy for James Carter. A single father in his late 30s, he worked 2 jobs, one at a local hardware store and the other delivering packages, to make ends meet. His apartment, though modest, was filled with warmth because of Emily, whose laughter and light made even the bleakest days bearable. Yet tonight, as he stared at the neatly printed invitation, panic surged through him. He had promised Emily that her birthday party would be perfect, that it would be magical. And now he faced the terrifying truth: he couldn't do it alone. He needed help, desperate help. Emily had been talking about her party for weeks, her small hands bouncing with excitement every time she imagined the balloons, the cake, the games, and the laughter of her friends. She had even drawn a picture of what she wanted her mother to wear, a bright, flowery dress and a sparkling smile. But James's heart sank with every brushstroke of her colored pencil, because he knew he couldn't fill the role she imagined. He wanted to be the perfect father, but perfection was impossible right now. And so, after pacing the small apartment for what felt like hours, he did something he never thought he would. He made a decision that would change both his life and the life of a stranger forever. The next day, James found himself standing outside a small cafe in the neighborhood, eyes scanning every table, every face, until they settled on her, a young woman, perhaps in her late 20s, sitting alone with a book, her hair cascading in soft waves over her shoulders. Her expression was calm, unbothered, entirely unaware of the storm that had brought him here. James hesitated, rehearsing what he might say. He had never begged anyone for anything, and yet here he was, feeling more vulnerable than he ever had. Taking a deep breath, he approached her, heart hammering in his chest, and said the words that would forever alter the course of their lives. "Can you pretend to be my wife, for 1 week?" The woman blinked at him, confusion flickering across her face, followed by skepticism and, finally, a faint trace of curiosity. She was named Claire Thompson, a kind-hearted stranger who had moved to Chicago just a year ago, working as a freelance graphic designer and enjoying the simplicity of her quiet life. To be asked to step into someone else's family, even temporarily, was bizarre and alarming, yet there was something in James's voice, something raw and pleading, that stirred her empathy. Claire hesitated for a long moment, silently weighing the absurdity of the request against the desperation in his eyes. Before making her decision, she asked a few questions, clarifying what exactly he needed. James explained that his daughter's birthday was in just 7 days, and that he wanted to shield Emily from disappointment. She didn't need to be anyone in the long term, she just needed to be present for this 1 week, play the part of a loving mother, and help create the illusion that their small family was intact. Claire's heart ached at the thought of a little girl so full of life facing such a void. And then, despite the ridiculousness of it all, she agreed. From the moment Claire stepped into James and Emily's life, the transformation began. Emily's initial hesitation gave way to cautious joy. She was naturally perceptive, but Claire's warmth, humor, and genuine kindness made her feel safe and cherished. Claire didn't just wear a smile, she became a presence that filled the apartment with light. She baked cookies with Emily, helped decorate the living room with balloons and streamers, and even learned the words to Emily's favorite song, singing it with a voice that made the little girl giggle uncontrollably. James, meanwhile, watched from the sidelines, feeling an unfamiliar mix of relief, admiration, and awe at this stranger who had stepped into their lives without hesitation. Yet the week was not without its challenges. Claire was adjusting to routines she had never imagined, and James was learning to trust someone completely in his personal space. The charade required constant awareness, pretending to hold hands on walks, taking family photos together, and sharing stories that Emily would believe. There were moments of awkwardness, like the first time they tried to cook dinner together, only to set off the smoke alarm, or the day they got lost driving to the party supply store. But through every mishap, laughter became their saving grace. Emily's laughter echoed through the apartment, a reminder that the world, though messy and unpredictable, could still hold magic. As the days passed, Claire and James began to see glimpses of something more than pretense. In quiet moments, like when Claire was reading Emily a bedtime story and James watched from the doorway, or when they shared a cup of coffee in the early morning, exhausted but content, there was a bond forming, subtle yet undeniable. It was in the way they instinctively supported each other, how they laughed at their mistakes, and how they silently acknowledged the pain of their pasts. Both had experienced loss in different forms, and in each other, they found understanding without words. By the time the day of Emily's birthday arrived, the apartment was unrecognizable. Brightly colored balloons floated near the ceiling, streamers twisted playfully along the walls, and the smell of chocolate cake wafted through the rooms. Emily's eyes sparkled with excitement, and she clutched Claire's hand as though it had always belonged there. James watched from the corner, his chest tight with emotion, knowing that this moment, the very moment he had feared he couldn't provide, was finally real. Friends arrived, laughter filled the rooms, and for a few precious hours, the weight of the past month seemed to lift. Emily danced, played, and laughed, her joy uncontainable, and for the first time in months, James allowed himself to breathe. The magic of the party was heightened by small, unexpected touches. Claire had secretly arranged a little surprise, a handmade crown for Emily, glittering and pink, to make her feel like a princess. When Emily saw it, her eyes filled with tears of happiness, and she hugged Claire tightly, whispering, "Thank you, Mommy." James's heart nearly broke and mended all at once. He had wanted this for her so badly, and now, thanks to Claire, it had become more than he could have imagined. Throughout the day, James felt the subtle shift of something transformative. He realized that love and family didn't always follow traditional rules. Sometimes, family was about presence, effort, and caring, about showing up when it mattered most. Claire's presence, initially a temporary solution, had illuminated this truth. She had stepped into a stranger's life with courage, empathy, and heart, and in doing so, had rewritten their story. As the evening drew to a close, guests departed, leaving behind echoes of laughter and scattered balloons. Emily fell asleep on the couch, exhausted but blissfully happy. James and Claire sat quietly in the living room, sharing a comfortable silence. He looked at her, eyes glistening, and felt a gratitude that words could barely capture. She had given him more than just help for a week, she had given Emily a memory she would treasure forever, and she had given James a glimpse of hope that life, no matter how harsh, still held extraordinary kindness. In that quiet moment, James understood that what had started as a desperate plea had grown into something profoundly human, a connection built on trust, compassion, and the courage to help another without expecting anything in return. Claire, too, had discovered a new depth to her own heart, realizing that sometimes stepping into someone else's life could illuminate your own. Together, they had created more than just a birthday party, they had forged a bond that could not be undone by time or circumstance. As James gently tucked Emily into bed, he whispered a silent promise to the universe: he would honor the gift he had been given. He would cherish Claire's selflessness, nurture Emily's happiness, and strive to be a father worthy of both. And somewhere deep inside, he allowed himself a fragile hope that the bond he had formed with Claire might not end when the week did. If this story has reminded you of the power of kindness, second chances, and the beauty of human connection, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Let the world know that even strangers can make an unforgettable difference in someone's life. The next morning, Claire prepared to leave, but Emily ran to her, arms outstretched, hugging her tightly. Tears filled Claire's eyes as she whispered that she had never felt so loved. After Claire left that morning, the apartment felt strangely quiet. James and Emily wandered through the rooms, noticing how empty the space seemed without her laughter filling the corners. Emily clutched her birthday crown tightly, still reluctant to let go of the week that had felt like a dream. James, meanwhile, felt a mixture of gratitude and an ache of loss. The week had reminded him that life could still hold magic, even in the smallest gestures, but it also left him questioning how to sustain this newfound joy. The days that followed were quiet, but the memory of Claire lingered in every room. Emily would randomly ask, "Do you think Mommy will visit again?" Her eyes, wide and hopeful, tugged at James's heart. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing: Emily needed this connection. And he realized he did too. He began to leave little notes for her, imagining them being read aloud in her presence, holding on to the hope that Claire might re-enter their lives in some form. A week after Claire's departure, James received an unexpected message. It was simple, just a text: "I've been thinking about Emily and you. Can I come by?" His heart leapt. That evening, Claire walked back into their lives, carrying flowers for Emily and a small gift, a book she had handpicked, filled with stories about courage, kindness, and hope. Emily ran into her arms without hesitation, the joy on her face lighting up the entire apartment. In that moment, James realized that their connection was no longer pretend, it had become real, grounded in shared experience and mutual care. Over the next few months, Claire began to spend more time with them. She helped with school projects, celebrated milestones, and slowly became a consistent presence in Emily's life. It wasn't easy. James had fears, doubts, and insecurities about letting someone new into their fragile family unit, but Claire never rushed, never forced anything. She showed up with patience, compassion, and authenticity. The lines between pretense and reality blurred until one day, James realized he could no longer imagine life without her. Emily, of course, thrived. She would often sit on Claire's lap while James cooked dinner, asking for stories and advice, and the apartment became a home filled with warmth, laughter, and love once more. For James, the transformation was profound. He began to believe in the possibility of second chances, not just for himself, but for the people who stepped into his life unconditionally. The desperation and panic he had felt that rainy night had given way to hope, healing, and trust. Months later, on a chilly spring evening, James and Claire sat on the apartment balcony, watching Emily chase fireflies in the courtyard below. Claire leaned her head on James's shoulder, and for the first time in a long while, he felt truly at peace. They didn't need labels, grand gestures, or perfection. They had something far more valuable: love born out of kindness, trust, and shared experiences. Emily's laughter rang through the air like music, a constant reminder that sometimes, family is chosen, nurtured, and created in the moments we least expect. James finally understood what he had learned over that unforgettable week: love cannot be measured by blood, circumstances, or societal rules. It exists in presence, in small sacrifices, and in the courage to step into someone's life when they need you most. Claire had done that for Emily, and in turn, she had changed James's life forever. If this continuation touched your heart, please like, share, and comment below. Let the world know that compassion and bravery can create miracles, even in ordinary lives. And before you leave, tell us in the comments what small act of kindness has changed someone's life for the better. You might inspire someone today. As they sat together that night, James, Claire, and Emily formed a new kind of family, not perfect, not bound by convention, but filled with love, trust, and a hope that would last a lifetime. And in that love, they found not only joy but a promise that no matter how desperate or impossible life might seem, a little courage and heart could turn everything around.